Senator Scott is recognized from South Carolina.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you for holding this very important hearing. I will say that my colleagues to the left have had a number of opportunities to ask questions of nominees before this committee that had nothing to do with the issues of this committee so many times that I can't even remember the number of times I've had to sit through banking hearing hour after hour listening to folks go on about things that have nothing to do with this committee. I would say that the comments that have been made by these noms, or at least a couple of them tweeting about the police, have everything to do with housing. The fact of the matter is housing is incredibly important, but safety in the place where you live is number one. And so when you have folks talking about defunding the police, you are actually making the housing issue and the desire for home ownership and for a good, safe place to live issue number one. I can't imagine something more important than safety in the place where you live. And having lived in some of the poorest parts of South Carolina, I can tell you firsthand that the one thing no one living in the communities where I grew up is asking for defunding the police. Not a single person, not one. I'll say this, that you look at the most recent polls and surveys done, more than 80% of African Americans, I think it's 81%, has said very clearly they want the same level of policing or more policing, and that is consistent throughout every demographic in this country. And so while we can make this into a political issue, this is an issue that impacts real people in real places that feel insecure and unsure about where they live, and they want the same dignity and respect where they live. And so for us to take this as a simple political issue is frankly inconsistent with the reality faced by so many people who simply want to come home to a safe place. And while it's really easy to have a conversation not living in those communities about people in those communities, I think it's wrong. I think it's wrong, and not only do I think it's wrong, you can look at what's happening all across the country, and those folks who wanted to defund the police are now trying to find a way to refund the police. You think about Minneapolis with a 90% increase in violent crime and homicides. You think about the fact that they are now saying, wait a second, cutting the police may have been a really bad idea. Baltimore, there are almost 400 officers in a shortage. They have 392 positions to be filled, more than a dozen detective positions vacant. What's happening in Baltimore? The crime is up. And what is the city council saying? They're saying, well, last year we cut it by $22 million. This year, let's increase it by $28 million. Why? Because they understand that putting poor people in a place without security is immoral. It is wrong. And so for us to have this conversation as if it's just a conversation because we are sitting in one of the safest places in the United States is ridiculous, in my opinion. We should take serious our words. We can actually lead people to more violent activities because when leaders say something, people listen. And if you want to lead, take that responsibility seriously. Very serious. Think about New York City just elected a new person who said, you're not defunding my police. We're going to actually add more policing. Whether it's New York City, Oakland, Baltimore, Minneapolis, Los Angeles, all are trying to reinstate millions, tens of millions of dollars in policing. And so when I hear Mr. Green tweet, no more money for police, I think about the kid I was living in the neighborhoods that I lived in where the police presence was necessary. It was essential. And so I don't think about this from the politics of left and right. I think about this as average American people who are vulnerable, who need help, who work hard, living paycheck to paycheck, and they want more policing. So, Mr. Green, would you like a chance to restate your position on defunding the police or give me better context for it? Because I got to say, it is an issue.
Senator Scott, I couldn't agree with you more, and I share your commitment to the health and safety of all residents in assisted housing, residents in the market. And I've worked in so many of the cities that you've mentioned to support improvements to communities, reinvestment in communities in ways that make them safer. I want to re-emphasize and make it abundantly clear. The words that you said, no more money for the police, were populated on my tweet when I shared an idea and I shared others' viewpoints. I regret if that is interpreted as my opinion. When I tweeted it at the time, I don't think it would have been interpreted that way. And I also don't think about this as the politics of left and right. As I said, one of my priorities, actually my number one priority, if I was fortunate enough to be confirmed, would be to harness the incredible talent at the Office of Policy Development and Research to better understand the needs and priorities of people and communities on the ground. So thank you so much for your commitment, and it's a commitment I share.
Mr. Chairman, I know I'm out of town. I'm going to finish with this statement right here. I'll tell you that I will debate anybody on funding the police at a proper level any day, anywhere, at any time, period. I'll say this as well. The reality of this is simply, as I work through police reform and I think about the issues and the comments made by so many people who have the advantage of sitting comfortably in a place, talking to others through their accounts, I think about those people who are literally desperately looking for leadership because for them, it's about life and death. It's not about politics. It's about life and death. And I take that seriously because I've been in those positions.
All right, folks, thank you so much for joining us here at Golden State Times. If you're new to the channel, we encourage you to subscribe by clicking that middle button. Also, check out our previous video by clicking the video on the right, or a video you might enjoy by clicking the video on the left. Also, don't forget to click the thumbs up button and share this video on social media. Peace.